2015 was a continuation of a lot of things, both creatively and medically. In the ongoing pursuit of trying to understand exactly what is happening to me health-wise, and seeing if there are other ways of making it a little more bearable, I visited doctors who were specialists in their field. Unfortunately, it seems that they don't know as much about the subject matter as I thought they might. I mean, I've never expected them to be able to cure me or anything, but for the most part it seems they are generally uninformed, and others of them aren't particularly interested in pursuing the course of better understanding about the subject, really. So with that in mind, I've had to find other means to get by. Okay, so this talk isn't supposed to be about my medical business, but it has a big impact on my life, so it doesn't seem to make sense not to mention it in some capacity. Yeah, I don't mention it much because I'm aware of everybody else's issues, and the fact that mine is a chronic illness and is not going to go away, I have to talk about it in moderation. But I can't also not talk about it, because if I don't talk about it at all, then people don't realise I'm actually dealing with something, and they can have the mistaken impression that everything's all shiny rainbows and unicorns. Anyway, not to say I don't try and have a positive outlook on things, but at the same time it can be very challenging. Words honestly cannot encapsulate the experience. So working on art projects really does help me to get from day to day in that regard. It takes my mind away from the situation of my health and directs it towards more fulfilling things, and also things that I can share with other people that are hopefully upbuilding, you know. This is one thing I really want to do with my life, is to create material that affects other people in a positive way. So throughout 2015 I've been working mostly on what's on your mind. I've been getting to grips with the process of making that series, and coming to learn how I work and how I work best, and also the limitations of my process. And with that said, I realised over time I'd started getting too picky about cleaning up the artwork. Like, the ink lines had started to get super polished, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but what happens is when I start focusing too much on the cleanup process, I start getting stressed out, because I'm not thinking about the actual animation anymore. I'm thinking, is this the correct line thickness? Have I done such and such? And then it starts becoming more of a tiresome process. And at the same time, I'd started out with the idea that I wasn't going to do many frames of animation in order to speed the process up, you know? And I've looked back on recent parts of the series and noticed that basically it ended up getting too polished, if you like. Yeah, I ended up putting too many frames into the animation that I was intending, which is all well and good, you know, if you don't mind taking a long time. But in the long run, I'm more interested in telling the story of what's on your mind than how polished the animation is. And I want it to be animated to some degree. It's a very energy-filled story that I don't feel comics would be able to convey that energy as much as I'd like. So I want it to be moving to some degree, but I know that it's not possible for me on my own to be able to create full-scale animation. It's why I started out with black and white, and it's dawned on me that I've got to scale it down a little more. I've got to, if you like, fool my brain into thinking I'm creating almost an animatic style video. So I've been running tests along that front to see what variations of frame rates and line styles I can combine in order to create a hybrid format, if you like. It's not entirely animatic, and it's not going right into full frame animation. It's like somewhere in the middle. If there's an action sequence, I will increase the frame count, and if it's simple stuff like characters sitting in a room talking, then movements will be limited to, say, 3 frames. There's going to be lip sync. They're not just going to sit there with their mouths open, because that's going way into animatic territory. And that's what I've been sort of contemplating over the past couple of months with regards to what's on your mind. As for Outcast Hero, there's been developments on that front too. I'm still halfway through the movie in terms of updating the animatic on that project. I keep going back and tweaking bits, you see. It doesn't seem right to continue updating the animatic when there's bits in the first... how many scenes is it now? 11, I think. yeah, when there's bits in the first 10 or 11 scenes that still need to be sort of adjusted. Like, the action sequence in the first scene has been vastly upgraded. It still needs work, but it's come away since, you know, I've had discussions with people and seen if they had additional ideas. I'm not really big on action sequences, it's not one of my fortes, so I have to get people to help me with that. What else? Yeah, just making scenes more coherent, trimming out things that don't need to be there, justifying the scenes that are there, you know, constant checking and refining. Anyway, that's looking really good, and I hope that in the following year I'll be able to add to more of that animatic upgrade. I also managed to finish rewriting one of my Pokemon fanfiction stories. Ultimatum is now completed at last. I can rest knowing that I have done the best I could with that story. It's 14 years old and I'm satisfied with it, you know. It's nice that I can bring projects to a stage where I can be satisfied with them and just say, I can put that away now. And Pokemon Rebirth as a whole is more or less over. I do have an idea for the final story, which would conclude the whole series, but as to whether I'll be able to write that or draw it, because I was considering making it a comic, I can't say, because my focus these days is now on Outcast Hero and What's on Your Mind, and the latter in particular I think I will be giving special attention to next year, because I'm hoping to get whole episodes out, you know. I'd at least like to get the first episode finished, because that gives you a solid idea of, like, the origins of the main characters. I think if I can get that done, that'll be a really great pitch. I mean, I'm not intending to pitch it to studios, but it pitches the idea to new viewers. That's the most important thing, I think, is gathering those people, and, you know, people tell other people whom they think will be interested, and that's how awareness of a project grows. Do I expect to do anything else next year? Well, I do have some other side projects in the pipeline, but those I'm keeping under my big navy hat for now. Partly because I'd like it to be a surprise, and partly because I don't know whether they're going to come to fruition yet. As with a lot of things in my life, I have to approach them with a degree of apprehension, because things are constantly changing. I hope that all of you too find joy in the coming new year. My advice to you for the new year is, if you've got a project that you've really been wanting to start, just start the project. Don't wait for some company to come along and go, hey, we like your stuff, or your YouTube channel to take off, or you somehow get a grant from somewhere, because those things may never happen. If you really want that idea to live, you've got to give it life. And you've got to give it life even if it's drawing on a piece of paper, taking a photograph of the paper and then putting it on the internet. You know, even if it's not the huge scale presentation that you see in your mind's eye, sometimes we have to start small and work up. I think more than anything that's what my illness has taught me. Sometimes we get restrictions put on us that we don't expect, and the key is to take those restrictions and run with them, and make the best of what you have, and grab every opportunity that you get. We're all going to have days where we feel sorry for ourselves, because that's just part of living in this world at this point. This world it's full of challenges, but it's also full of opportunities, and we have to be vigilant about seeking those opportunities and seeking them out. So I hope to see lots of new ideas and new projects from you. I want to see those ideas spring to life in whatever form that you can make them spring to life in. Because remember, if it's a good story, people don't care if it's in colour or fully animated or whatever. They just enjoy the story. And that's also a thing I've got to keep telling myself. Even though I'd really love to see all my work fully animated and in colour. Sometimes it's just not possible, but making it another way could well be possible. So aim for that. And I'll see you later.